There was a woman in catechism class who asked the question of the class, "Can anyone tell me what's the difference between a mortal sin and a venial sin?" The little girl raised her hand and said, "A mortal sin makes God angry, and a venial sin makes him nervous." Out of the mouths of children. Today, we have a focus in the gospel on Jesus' words about him being the good shepherd. We don't have a lot of sheep herders around us these days, but the shepherd is one who leads us. In his reality of being a good shepherd, it's one where it leads him to die for the sheep. It's no mere career-long thing and then retirement. No, he died for his sheep. He laid it down. He even gathered those who were not his own, which he was talking about, the Gentiles. The Gentiles will come in with the Jews, and we will be one flock. There will be one flock, one shepherd. And they will then know the intimacy that I have with my Father, since they will be brothers and sisters, and they will follow me, and they will heed my voice. And there will be that unity of the church. And Jesus freely lays his life down in the crucifixion. Sometimes I think we think that the powers of the world directed Jesus in his death and crucifixion. But actually, no. He knew everything. He knew everything that was going to happen. And he laid himself down for us. One of the marks of the authentic church, the Catholic Church, is unity. The one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, one of the marks is that we be one. And for 1,517 years, we were one. But you know, as well as I do, because we all grew up in this culture, there are thousands, tens of thousands of Christian denominations where we are not one and we're not all equal. That's an uncomfortable message today to bring about, because I've even heard, even locally, people musing on these things theologically, and they say, oh, we're all the same, as long as somebody's going to church. And, well, in some sense, maybe that's true. But there's more, and we're meant to be one. We're meant to be a family, not a scattered family. But we're meant to be one in the fold that Jesus intended, because it was by his will and by his teaching that they would be one. He even prayed for that. It was one of the last things he prayed before he went into the Garden of Gethsemane. He said that they may be one as you and I, Father, are one. He desires that still today. And there are some beautiful things that happen to make us one. I know of several examples today of Anglicans. Down in Texas, there was a couple hundred of them that entered the Catholic Church because they saw what was going on in the Anglican faith, and they said, this is weird. And they started to pray on things and reading the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and they were brought in as a whole group, as a number of congregations into the Catholic faith in 2008. Then there's also entire religious orders that had left the Catholic Church during Henry VIII's era, back in the 1500s, and the Franciscan Friars of the Atonement. Their entire religious order came back into the Catholic faith about 100 years ago, and they've been Catholic ever since. And so there are beautiful things. And tell them, those ones that come into the Catholic faith, tell them that we're all equal. What you do if you say that is saying your decision doesn't mean anything. But they knew it to be a bold decision, leaving their faith. The mother of J.R.R. Tolkien, she converted from her faith in the Anglican faith with her two sons. She was a single mother. She entered the Catholic Church. The rest of her family ostracized her, said, you have nothing to do with us anymore. She had one or two friends in the world. One of them was a Catholic priest. And before she died of her illness, which debilitated her to a bed, she still had two young boys to raise. And she gave them both to the Catholic priest to raise. And he raised those sons after her death, and one of them became J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of The Lord of the Rings, the translator of the book of Job into English, and he became a very faithful man who also had a family of his own. Beautiful things can happen, of course, too, when we come into that faith that says Jesus wants to be in your very person, in your body, to give you strength in the Eucharist. That is a beautiful truth. One thing that will help today as we try to spread that faith among our brothers and sisters who may not see it, joy will be the biggest thing. I think the most effective tool, so to speak, to really show them we love our faith. We love it, and actually, I want to share it with you. I don't merely want to just say, you know what, you're okay, I'm okay, let's go forward. No, because Jesus wants them to be with the one fold, with the one shepherd, and to be one flock, unified in faith. And just talk to the area pastors of Protestant churches and say we're the same to them. Just tell them we're the same. Whoa, you'll get a different answer from them. Look at St. Peter's homily from today's first reading. It's a pretty bold proclamation. And just look at the context prior to what we hear, and you'll see that they were having tons of converts into the Christian faith, into the Catholic faith. 5,000 were added to their number, it said, by St. Peter and James and John and the other apostles. They were coming in from Judaism. And then the high priests, Caiaphas and Ananias, they were looking at this, and they were being converted in the capital city of Jerusalem. So the high priestly family was like, this is out of control. We need to call them in, arrest them immediately, and we'll question them. And that's what happened, and that's what they were questioning him about. They said, by what power, by what name did you do this? They say in the verses prior to what we hear today. The answer comes from St. Peter. He says, by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you crucified. Then he says that this Jesus was the fulfillment of the prophecy. This is the stone, he says, that was rejected by you, the builders. That comes from Psalm 118. And then he says this big line that's very uncomfortable today. He said, St. Peter, there is salvation in no one else. No one else. No Buddha, no Muhammad, no anything. By all salvation will come through Christ, he says. What a powerful thing. Now, for us to understand this rightly, it's good to get a couple things right. In other faiths, there are good things. There are rays of truth that are in them. And to say that we have received the fullness of truth from Jesus in the Catholic Church is not to denigrate what they have. In fact, I would say don't ever do that. Don't denigrate the good things that they do have. Many times they have wonderful community, tons of gifts. And then, of course, we want to bring them in so that those gifts will be expanded not just in their local community, but even beyond. Because if you look at Dr. Scott Hahn, Dr. Peter Kraft, a number of other converts to Catholicism, they have huge gifts for everyone to glean from. And they will then be really exalted. The humble will be exalted so that they can share what they do have with us. And our brothers and sisters, we want to be one flock and one fold. To not denigrate what they have rays of truth, we can say, rays of light. But they don't have the sun, you know? And we have been given the sun. It's never to be arrogant. Oh man, if we are arrogant in our Catholic faith, you just throw in the towel and stop speaking. Because it's really about an invitation into something beautiful. A Catholic faith that we love, that we would give everything for. That's the soul of our life, from which we derive the strength to act in this world, to love. I mean, we are really given this beautiful faith. And of course, we want those to have that faith, to enter into it, and then to remain in it, to remain consistent so that a momentum of grace can build a saintly life. And saints are like doctors. We need them in this world. We need them in this world. They're not just a nice thing to have, we need them. And the church's entire purpose of existence, and the church is either of divine origin or it's not. The church's entire purpose is to make more saints, is to bring about saintliness in this world, holiness in this world. And it will come from our time with Jesus and being shepherded by him, to be shepherded by Jesus. And when we feel our inadequacies or maybe the homily gets a little long and we're like, oh, Lord, have mercy. we can then say, shepherd me, O God. Shepherd me, O God, beyond my wants, beyond my fears, from death into life. That prayer is a beautiful one. Just even shepherd me, O God, is a nice, quick prayer to pray when we feel our weaknesses or we see chaos around us in the news and whatever. Shepherd me, O God. May I be a faithful one to your covenant. May I be filled with your love, that I might bring it into this world. And then we'll show forth the joy of knowing Jesus.